I still remember the sound of their laughter, sharp, dismissive, echoing around that mahogany dining table as I explained my startup idea. My father's booming mockery, my brother's condescending smirk, my cousins snickering behind their hands. Arthur's playing businessman again, they said. That night broke something in me, but it also forged something stronger. 3 years later, I sit at my desk, signing payroll. Dad's name on one line, regional manager. My brother's on another, sales associate. My cousin, warehouse supervisor. The same people who laughed until they cried now wait anxiously for the checks I sign. Funny how life works, isn't it? They mocked my dreams, called them ridiculous fantasies. Now they work for me. Now they depend on me. And sometimes, when I'm alone in my corner office, the one with the view they all covet, I allow myself a small smile at how perfectly the universe delivers its justice. I wasn't always the man who signs the checks. 3 years ago, I was just Arthur Mercer, a mid-level IT specialist for a government agency, spending my days troubleshooting network issues and dreaming of something more. I had a modest apartment, a fiancée named Claire who worked in marketing, and an idea that kept me up at night. Software that could revolutionize how companies manage their supply chains. I'd been developing it in secret, staying up until 3 a.m. coding after my regular job, fueled by energy drinks and the persistent belief that I was onto something big. My family has always been what you'd call traditional. My father, Richard, built a regional distribution company from the ground up, the old-fashioned way, with handshakes and hard work. My brother, James, went to an Ivy League school and became a corporate lawyer, complete with the designer suits and the corner office. My cousins and uncles all fell into similar paths: stable jobs, predictable careers, conventional success. At family gatherings, they'd talk business, but only their kind of business: brick and mortar, tangible products, visible employees. The internet was just a tool to them, not an ecosystem of possibilities. I remember the day COVID hit the news. While everyone panicked, I saw opportunity. Global supply chains were fracturing before our eyes, and my software, designed to predict disruptions and automatically reroute logistics, suddenly wasn't just innovative. It was essential. I worked with a new fire, refining algorithms, designing interfaces, building something that could navigate the chaos that was coming. Claire would find me asleep at my keyboard most mornings, my coffee cold beside me. "You're obsessing," she'd say, but there was still affection in her voice then. By summer, I had a working prototype. It wasn't perfect, but it was promising. I could demonstrate how it would save companies millions by predicting supply problems before they happened. The system could analyze thousands of variables: weather patterns, political instability, labor disruptions, and suggest alternatives in real time. I called it ChainLink. Not the most original name, perhaps, but it captured what I wanted to do: strengthen the weakest links in global commerce. I decided it was time to take the leap. I drafted a business plan, calculated how long my savings would last, and prepared to quit my government job. But first, I wanted to share my vision with the people who mattered most. I wanted my family to see what I saw, to believe in me. That's why I chose my parents' anniversary dinner to make my announcement. The whole extended family would be there: Dad, Mom, James, my aunts and uncles, my cousins. Claire would be by my side. It would be perfect, I thought. I'd explain my idea. They'd be impressed. Maybe Dad would even offer some startup capital or connections. I practiced my pitch for days, refining it, making it clear and compelling. I bought a new suit for the occasion. Navy blue, well-fitted. Claire helped me pick it out. "You look like a CEO," she said, straightening my tie. I remember kissing her, feeling like everything was finally falling into place. If only I'd known what was waiting for me at that dinner table. If only I'd realized how quickly people can turn on you when you step outside their narrow vision of success. If only I'd understood that sometimes the people who should believe in you the most are the ones most invested in seeing you fail. The anniversary dinner was held at my parents' home, a sprawling colonial in Connecticut that my father never tired of reminding us he'd bought with real work. Everyone was there, dressed in their finest, crystal glasses catching the light from the chandelier my mother was so proud of. I waited until dessert was served, my father's favorite tiramisu, before standing up, tapping my glass gently. "I have an announcement," I said, feeling Claire's hand squeeze my leg under the table. The room quieted, all eyes on me. I took a deep breath and launched into my prepared speech about ChainLink, about the future of supply chain management, about my plans to leave my job and launch a startup. I spoke about market potential, about the pandemic's effect on global logistics, about my vision for revolutionary software that could save companies millions. I was 2 minutes in when I noticed my father's expression hardening. 3 minutes in when my brother James started smirking. 4 minutes in when the first chuckle broke the silence. Uncle Robert shaking his head. "You're going to quit a government job with benefits to sell what exactly? An app?" My father's voice cut through the room like a blade. "In the middle of a global crisis?" I tried to explain further, about algorithms, predictive models, machine learning, but with each technical term, the laughter grew louder. My cousin Derek pulled out his phone and started recording me. "This is gold," he snickered. "Arthur's TED Talk on how to go broke in 6 months." "Son," my father stood up, his 6 feet 2 inches frame towering over the table. "People need real solutions right now. Not digital snake oil from someone who's never run so much as a lemonade stand." James, my own brother, joined in. "The pandemic's ruining legitimate businesses, and you think this is the time to play tech entrepreneur? With what experience? With what connections?" Their words stung, but what happened next shattered me. My cousin shared the video in our family group chat. Phones started buzzing around the table. More laughter erupted as they watched the replay of my earnest pitch. "Send that to Claire's parents," someone joked. "They should know what their future son-in-law is planning." I looked to Claire, expecting support, alliance, anything. Instead, I saw hesitation in her eyes. She smiled weakly and said, "Maybe they have a point, Arthur. It is a big risk right now." The betrayal hit me like a physical blow. I pushed back from the table, knocking over my chair. "None of you understand what's happening to supply chains right now. None of you see what I see." "What you see," my father said, standing to face me, his voice dangerously low, "is a fantasy. What we see is a son about to throw away everything for nothing." Something in me snapped. Everything? My soul-crushing government job? My life playing it safe? That's not everything. That's nothing. I didn't see my father's hand move until it connected with my face. A sharp, stinging slap that silenced the room. In 32 years, he had never once struck me. "You ungrateful," he began, but I was already backing away, my cheek burning more from the humiliation than the pain. 2 weeks later, Claire moved out. "I can't tie my future to someone so unstable," she said, returning the engagement ring. 3 days after that, I submitted my resignation letter. The family WhatsApp group buzzed with messages about my breakdown and midlife crisis at 32. My father called once, only to tell me the door would be open when I came to my senses. I was alone, financially stretched, and regarded as a family embarrassment. But in that isolation, something crystallized within me. A cold, clear determination. They hadn't just rejected my idea, they'd rejected me. And somehow, I was going to make them regret it. The months after that disastrous dinner were the darkest of my life. I moved out of my apartment into a studio the size of my previous living room. I sold my car, cut every expense to the bone, and poured everything into ChainLink. I worked 18-hour days, surviving on instant noodles and determination. My hands trembled from caffeine overdose. My eyes burned from staring at code for endless hours. I missed Claire. I missed my family. But every time loneliness threatened to overwhelm me, I replayed that dinner in my mind. My father's slap, my brother's smirk, Claire's betrayal, and my resolve hardened again. 6 months in, my savings were dwindling dangerously. The prototype was improved, but still not market-ready. No investors were biting. I was sending out dozens of cold emails daily, pitching to anyone who might listen. Most went unanswered. The few responses were polite rejections. The pandemic had made investors cautious. No one wanted to bet on an unproven founder with an ambitious idea. Then came a Thursday in December. I was sitting on my mattress on the floor. I'd sold my bed frame the week before, when my phone rang. It was Michael Zhang, an old colleague from my government job who had moved to a venture capital firm. "That logistics software you were obsessed with," he said without preamble. "Is it real, or was it just talk?" My heart raced. "It's real. It works. I can demonstrate it right now." "Do that," he said. "I've got a Zoom with partners in an hour. One of our portfolio companies just lost millions on a shipment stuck in Singapore. They need solutions yesterday." That Zoom call changed everything. I hadn't showered in 3 days, but I pulled on a clean shirt, positioned my laptop to hide the Spartan conditions of my studio, and gave the performance of my life. I demonstrated ChainLink's capabilities in real time, showing how it would have predicted the Singapore bottleneck weeks in advance. Michael's partners were skeptical but intrigued enough to schedule a follow-up. 2 weeks and 5 meetings later, they offered $500,000 in seed funding. It wasn't a fortune in tech terms, but it was enough to hire 2 developers, rent a small office, and pay myself a minimal salary. It was lifeline. The real breakthrough came in March. The global supply chain crisis was worsening. A container ship blocked the Suez Canal, causing worldwide disruptions. Suddenly, logistics was front-page news. Companies were desperate for solutions. ChainLink, with its predictive capabilities, went from interesting concept to essential tool overnight. I closed our first major client, a mid-sized electronics manufacturer, then a second, then a third. I remember the moment I signed our 10th client contract. I was alone in the office. My small team had gone home for the day. The signed PDF came through at 11:30 p.m., a $1.2 million annual subscription from a company that had previously dismissed us. I stood up from my desk, walked to the window overlooking the city lights, and felt something break inside me. I wept, not from sadness, but from vindication, relief, a complex tangle of emotions I couldn't name. By summer, we had 28 corporate clients. ChainLink was hailed as a breakthrough in industry publications. We moved to a larger office. I hired more staff, engineers, sales reps, customer support. We released version 2.0 with enhanced features, more accurate predictions. A major logistics journal called us the future of supply chain management. The true validation came when a tech conglomerate approached us with an acquisition offer, $23 million. I declined. This wasn't about money anymore. This was about building something lasting, something that vindicated my vision, something that would force everyone who laughed at me to acknowledge I had been right all along. I worked harder, slept less. My new apartment, a spacious loft downtown, remained mostly unfurnished because I rarely left the office. My team worried about my intensity, but they couldn't argue with the results. ChainLink was growing exponentially, riding the wave of urgent need as global supply chains continued to fracture and reform under pandemic pressures. Then came the call I never expected. My brother James's number flashing on my screen one Tuesday afternoon. I almost didn't answer. When I did, his voice was different. Subdued, lacking its usual confidence. "Arthur," he said, "I think we need to talk." James suggested meeting at an upscale bar downtown. Neutral territory. When I arrived, I barely recognized him. Gone was the immaculate suit, the perfectly coiffed hair, the aura of unshakable confidence. Instead, he looked diminished. He nursed a whiskey, his knuckles white around the glass. "The firm downsized," he said without preamble. 3 rounds of layoffs. I survived the first 2, but last Friday— He trailed off, took a long sip. 15 years, gone just like that. I said nothing, letting silence fill the space between us. Part of me, a dark, vengeful part I wasn't proud of, enjoyed seeing him brought low. "Dad's business is struggling too," he continued. "Supply chain issues, ironically enough. Can't get inventory, can't fulfill orders. Customers going elsewhere." James laughed bitterly. The old man's too stubborn to adapt, still doing everything the way he did 20 years ago. I signaled the bartender for 2 more drinks. "What do you want from me, James?" He looked up, his eyes meeting mine directly for the first time. "A job. Any position. I've sent out 200 resumes. Nothing. Everyone's cutting, not hiring." The moment crystallized perfectly. My brother, who had laughed the loudest at my digital snake oil, now begging to be part of it. "You have no experience in tech," I said, echoing his own words from that dinner. "I can learn," he said, desperation edging into his voice. "I have a law background. I could help with contracts, compliance." I let him talk, pitching himself to me. James Mercer, Ivy League graduate, former corporate hotshot, now humbled and hungry. When he finished, I stood up. "Come by the office tomorrow. HR opens at 9. They'll have paperwork for you." The look on his face, relief mixed with something like shame, should have felt sweeter than it did. 2 weeks later, my father called. Our first conversation in nearly 3 years. His voice sounded older, strained. "Your brother says you've built something impressive," he said. No greeting, no preamble. "We're doing well," I replied neutrally. "My suppliers in Asia are unreliable, missing deadlines, making excuses about shipping delays." A heavy pause. "James says your software could help." "It could," I confirmed, feeling a strange tightness in my chest. "We specialize in exactly these problems." Another long silence. Then, "I need help, Arthur." I closed my eyes, remembering the sting of his hand against my face. "Come to my office tomorrow, 2 o'clock. We'll see what we can do." Over the next 6 months, my family's business integrated fully with ChainLink's systems. My father's regional distribution company became a case study in how traditional businesses could transform with the right technology. And my father himself, still proud, still stubborn, had to acknowledge the value of what I'd built. My cousin Derek joined our marketing team. 2 uncles came on board in operations. As the economic downturn worsened and traditional businesses faltered, my family gradually migrated to ChainLink's payroll. At last year's Christmas party, the first family gathering I'd attended since that fateful dinner, I watched them all. My father talking animatedly with our lead developer about future features. James explaining our compliance protocols to new hires. Cousins and uncles wearing company lanyards and ChainLink branded sweatshirts. I stood at the back of the room, a strange mix of emotions swirling within me. My COO approached, handed me a champagne. "Quite the family business you've built," she remarked. "Not what I imagined," I admitted. "Is it better?" I considered the question carefully. The revenge fantasy that had fueled me through the darkest days had played out even more perfectly than I could have scripted. They worked for me now. They depended on me. I had proven them all wrong in the most dramatic way possible. But the satisfaction I'd expected to feel had transformed into something more complex. Watching my father engage enthusiastically with technology he once dismissed, seeing James apply his legal mind to problems that actually interested him, observing my extended family find purpose in building something innovative, I realized the true victory wasn't in their dependency, but in their conversion. They now believed in what I believed in. They saw what I had always seen. "It's different," I answered finally. Later that night, my father found me alone on the office balcony. We stood in silence, looking out at the city lights. Then he did something he hadn't done since I was a child. He put his arm around my shoulders. "I was wrong," he said simply, "and I'm sorry." The words I'd longed to hear for years. Yet they didn't bring the triumph I'd imagined. Instead, they brought closure. The cycle of hurt and vindication that had driven me finally complete. Today, as I sign the payroll checks, as I approve my father's innovative suggestion for regional expansion, as I review James's brilliant contract negotiation strategy, as I watch my family thrive within the company I built, I understand a truth that eluded me during those hungry, angry days coding alone in my studio apartment. Success isn't about making others work for you. It's about creating something so undeniably valuable that even your harshest critics cannot help but join you in building it. They once mocked my dreams. Now they share them. And somehow, that's a sweeter revenge than I ever could have imagined.